If you need guidance on what questions to ask during your upcoming job interview, and if you'd also like a cheat sheet to take with you that has all of the research and preparation that you've done at a glance, then stay tuned as the Lenore coaching team and I give you tips that will change your life. Greetings, I'm Dannita Trice with Tips Change Lives. We have covered a lot of ground during the before and after the interview series, helping you to become the part for your upcoming interview. And today we will be covering their final portions, which are the questions that you should be asking during your interview, and also we will be covering the interview preparation sheet or a cheat sheet that I will show you how to create that will help you to put all of that goodness on a single page to help you remember all of the research you've done and all of the self-reflection that you've done to recall your experiences. It'll add true value to that role that you're interviewing for. So let's jump right in and talk about the questions you should be considering to ask your future employer.
As you are preparing to be asked questions, that asking questions, your interviewer is going to ask if you have any questions. So I want to ask you all, I know what I would say as having interviewed people or set up interviews in the past, but what do you all say? Is it important to ask questions when you're asked if you have questions during an interview?
A very straightforward answer is yes. And you got to look at this question from the recruiter standpoint or the hiring manager standpoint. If I'm sitting down, I've spent 30 minutes to an hour interviewing you, and a candidate just you ask the question, do you have any questions for us? And they said no, and just walk away. Like, does it show you that that candidate really cares? And so that's how I would sort of answer that question. It shows that you care. It shows that the candidate has done some research, that they're gonna be really invested in if they do come to this role because they've done research. They've asked whether they're pretty much a fit for this organization. And so the why behind whether or not you ask questions is determine, does this organization fit in terms of my skill set, the future that I want to go in terms of my career trajectory. So those are the why in terms of why you would ask questions. And there's such a variety of different types of questions. I think, I alluded to that leadership style, communication style, because you're going to work with other people. I love that Lorayah mentioned like strengths. And so I love weaving in those self-assessment questions. So I want to know, do I got a type A supervisor or not? As somebody I love to say I'm more strategic and big picture. That's an easy way of saying that I'm not type A. I'm good with details, but I'm gonna flesh out the details as they come. And so you want to know that, right? You want to know that if you're going into that type of situation. Or on the flip side, if you know that you're an achiever, and you're working with a supervisor that is just kind of, they're there collecting the paycheck, and the task that the work that you guys have to do is just not a priority. You want to know that if you're an achiever. So I just say that as an example. Those are questions. Those are the type of questions that you can ask to determine if you're a fit.
Absolutely. This is an investment. You're investing, as I said, 40 hours a week of your time to this organization. You really need to make sure that this is a good fit for you. But also the questions show, like Clint said, are you even interested? Like, even you should always ask, so what's the next steps in the process? Like, if you don't ask that, then you really don't care if you get the job or not. But some other questions. What does the professional development look like? Another question that you can ask, what is the structure? Are you supervising anybody? Is there any administrative support? Really try and ask questions that show that you are imagining yourself in the role.
Yeah, I just want to add only one last thing is sometimes a job seeker, we get nervous, like especially for newer job seekers, we get nervous with the idea of interviewing. So sometimes you just forget, like you're just trying to get this process over with. And so that's the only thing I would just say to that is think about, like, you know, you're obviously getting asked questions to see if you're a fit, but you want to just pause and think about this process because you want to ask questions so that to see if this is a fit for you as well. So just for new job seekers that, you know, or folks that are coming back to the workforce, you know, just think about the interview process is it is a process. So you want to ask questions as a part of that. So don't be nervous or try to control your nerves in order to finish that interview process.
And I want to jump back on.
Yes, please.
So yes, for the job seekers, it's it can be nerve-wracking, which is why you should prepare. And so that's why research is very important. I know I'm the type, I have my portfolio and I have my whole page full of questions. And as I'm interviewing throughout the day, if it's been answered, I write that answer down, and I know at the end of the day when they ask, do you have any questions? I don't need to ask that because it's been answered. But it's better to have more questions because then you're really just seeing that puzzle, like trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So even if you don't write everything out prior to the interview, have a portfolio so that as you're hearing from your different the different teams, write down any questions so that you're prepared.
Wow, I mean, you all have said so much, and I'm over here like, this is so good. This is so good. Wow, what food for thought that was to help you generate some questions to ask your future employer during your interview. Now, let's talk about a document that I call the interview preparation sheet, or it's essentially a cheat sheet to help you organize all of the research you've done internally and on the employer, and also the questions that you're planning to ask, so that when you go into your interview day, all of that goodness that you've done to prepare doesn't go out of the window because you're nervous. Let's take a look.
This is how to organize your interview preparation sheet or your interview cheat sheet. So, one, I typically split the paper in half. I will either draw a line down the middle, or I will do as I have done here, and that is to tear a piece of the paper or tear to like the midpoint of the paper and fold it over. Or if it's in a notebook, I will do the same thing, just fold it over so that you have a half. Really, this is a margin for me so that I know I will choose one of the sides to put my cheat sheet information on, and leave the other side blank so I can take notes on the other side of it. So typically I will start at the top by putting the company information that I do not want to forget. Sometimes nerves can get in the way, so I will actually write the company name here, and then I will write who the CEO is, and then I will write each of the names of the individuals that I will be interviewing with, name by name.
If you're unsure of who you're interviewing with on interview day, simply contact the employer by email or phone and ask who you'll be meeting or interviewing with on interview day. That way, you can research each of those individuals on LinkedIn by plugging in their name in the search. And that way, when you find them, you'll be able to get an idea of what they do at the organization, how that might relate to your role, and also get an idea of their background and their experiences, which may actually help you to generate some additional questions to ask during the interview as it relates to your role.
I will write each of the names of the individuals that I will be interviewing with, name by name. And typically I will also write their title so I won't forget it. And knowing their title will know what stake they have in the interview decision process, or which a relationship would be to them if you got the job. This is important because you'll want to have specific questions to them or for them, or you want to be able to pull out some buzzwords that will resonate with whatever it is that they do in that company. And you'll also want to write down any key information about the company that you absolutely don't want to forget. So maybe list the values, the core values. And in so doing, you want to do this because one, you want to know it, but two, you want to be able to sprinkle the core value language within your question responses during the interview to really show that you are connected with the culture already and that you understand what the company lives by. So that portion is the company information. And then next, you will have thought through the stories that you'll want to tell about your past as it pertains to the position. And what I typically do is write down some buzzwords that will help me to remember the story that I want to tell. So for example, if I wanted to talk about going through an inventory of past credit card receipts to help a customer solve a problem, I might want to put down credit card story. Or if I wanted to talk about designing an intern evaluation process for a summer program, then I might want to put down intern evaluation. So again, these are just buzzwords or buzz phrases that are going to cue your memory, because if you become nervous, you may forget which story could be relevant to whatever it is that you're asked. So just to be able to look down can provide some extra confidence to you and comfort. And then after you write down your stories, you also want to have a section for questions. So again, you'll notice that I'm phrasing things here. You will want to phrase your questions also, just so that you will be able to call to your memory or recall to your memory what it is that you're wanting to ask. So perhaps you want to know something about how performance is measured. So you'll write performance there. Maybe you want to ask something about what is the ideal candidate that the team is looking for from everyone's point of view that isn't listed in the job description. Maybe you want to ask something about training. So again, these are just buzzwords or buzz phrases that are meant to cue your memory. And then also you want to write anything else that you absolutely don't want to forget. So maybe you should have reviewed the job description and noticed that there was particular language on that job description that was used over and over again, or a phrase or a word. So perhaps technology savvy, or maybe the word technology was used within there. You don't want to forget that that was used. So put it somewhere on this side of the paper so that you'll know that in your responses, you need to be sprinkling the word technology within your responses. Or if there is something significant that's happening with that particular industry right now that you're aware of that might not have been mentioned anywhere in the job description, such as the company is going through a new strategic plan, or maybe they are about to onboard a new CEO. You want to have that information here also on the ready. Or maybe you read an article that has to do with the position that you're applying for, and you want to be able to sprinkle that within the conversation somewhere. So maybe you'll say something like, article or whatever the article is about, just to really cue your memory. So then when you're going to take this with you to your interview experience as a cheat sheet. And on this side, you'll want to write down any information that you're learning throughout the interview process so that you can, one, be able to follow up with a thoughtful thank you note that has information that you found was important to either one or most of the interviewers within that note. And two, so that when you get that job, you will have those notes on hand as to what is important to that interview team.
You've done a lot of work to prepare for this upcoming interview. Here's some final thoughts to consider as we round out our preparing you to be the part in time for your interview segment. Really being the part, and a part of being the part is really to take a look at your mindset first and say, hey, I can do this. I can go into this interview and I can land this interview. I can not only land the interview, but I'm qualified to be having a conversation with this person because I was invited. And then two, attending to research. It is the wrong answer to say that, oh, I'm just going to go and wing it. I'm just going to go and wing it. I've had people tell me that before, and I'm like, wow, okay, you are very risky.
Yep.
And it will show on you. And then something that I've heard a lot from you guys is that your research and your preparation is tied to your confidence.
Yep.
Landing the job, it depends on your confidence. And that's really what this series is all about. How can you get to a place of confidence so that you can go in and land that job that you're seeking? And this concludes the Be the Part portion of the Before and After the Interview series. You are ready. You have what it takes to sit down, do the research necessary to know what value that the employers is expecting the next candidate and the role you're interviewing for to add, so that you therefore can look back at your previous experience to share with them how you and your unique experiences and your interests can meet that need. And finally, we've talked about in this segment the questions to ask and how you can organize all of that goodness or all of the information that you have considered in preparation for this interview. So now we'll dive into, now that you are the part, how to look the part in time for your interview day. Stay tuned.